Hey folks, this is Riker, bringing you a Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls guide to the Crusader Stampede build, aka the Pony build. Now, while this build will not be the best for clearing higher greater rifts, it's still a tremendously powerful endgame build with very high survivability, a lightning quick Torment 6 rift clear time, and it's the most fun that I've ever had with a Crusader. Oh, but most importantly, it's the build used by Alkaiser, who is a legend in the Diablo 3 community for having a famous farming run named after him in the pre-Reaper of Soul days. Just like most Crusader endgame builds, this one requires the 6-piece Akan set bonus and is focused around maintaining 100% uptime on Akarat's champion. And, spamming lots of horses everywhere. So first, let's look at the skills. Phalanx Stampede will be your damage dealing skill. And part of the reason for this will be the synergy with the chosen shield for this build, which we'll go over soon. It's got a fairly hefty wrath cost, so another important thing to this build will be managing resources. But beyond doing a good amount of damage, Stampede also has a chance to stun your enemies, meaning this build does a fairly good job at stun locking opponents. You'll also note that this rune is physical, and for that reason, the chosen element that we will be speccing towards will be physical. The next skill you want is Steed Charge Endurance. This is just a tremendous mobility skill. The Endurance rune adds to that mobility. This is great for both getting out of tough situations, as well as speeding through T6 rifts. And with the amount of cooldown reduction that we're going to be stacking, because cooldown reduction will also be a huge part of this build, you're going to have very little downtime on Steed Charge. Next mandatory skill is Laws of Valor Unstoppable Force. The main reason for this is because the Unstoppable Force rune gives you 5 seconds of reduced wrath cost on all skills. Again, Phalanx is all you're going to be spamming offensively, and it costs quite a bit of wrath, so we need to do what we can to manage our wrath. Next mandatory skill, Akarat's champion, Prophet. The Prophet rune is really a survivability option, and because, given this is a physical Stampede build, the other options aren't that enticing. Firestarter may be appealing to fire builds. Rally is only moderately useful, because we're not using any other big cooldown skills like Bombardment. Hasteful isn't really helpful at all. 15% increased attack speed just means you're going to burn through your wrath faster. And Embodiment of Power may seem appealing, because it increases the bonus wrath generation you get from Akarat's champion from 5 to 10, so that definitely will help. And if you feel that survivability is not an issue, such as if you're only doing T6 and you're not bothering with greater rifts, then you may want to go with Embodiment over Prophet. The main reason we're taking Prophet is for that get out of jail free card. The first time you take fatal damage, you're instead returned to full health. Next, you want to take Provoke. The rune is a little negotiable, but the reason we're taking Provoke is for that wrath generation. If you want to be more aggressive, you can go with Charged Up. That'll give you a slight damage boost. But if you want to play it more defensively, you can go with Too Scared to Run, which will nerf enemy DPS. Now the last skill is the most debatable. The one I have equipped right now is Shield Glare, Zealous Glare, and this is purely for wrath generation. Shield Glare by itself generates wrath, Zealous Glare makes it generate even more, but if you feel you don't need quite that much wrath, you could instead go with Divine Verdict, which will be a lot more offensive. Blinded enemies take 20% more damage for 4 seconds. But if you really want to push the higher greater rifts, then you might have to forego Shield Glare entirely, and do like Alkaiser, and instead get Iron Skin. This gives you huge damage reduction for a short amount of time, but we're going to be running very roughly 50% cooldown reduction, so you can have this up roughly 1/3 of the time. And in fact, Alkaiser's chosen rune is Steel Skin, which increases the duration to 7 seconds, and will effectively give you about 50% uptime. Onto the passives, Lord Commander is a must. That increases your Phalanx damage by 20%, and also helps with your Steed Charge cooldown reduction. Finery is a must-have in order to get a solid strength buff, and remember that strength translates not only into damage but also into toughness because it applies to armor. You're going to want a two-handed weapon, so take Heavenly Strength. This will allow you to wield a two-handed weapon and a shield. And then for your last passive, it depends on whether you want to be more offensive or defensive. I opted for offense, so I selected Holy Cause, and this just flat out increases your weapon damage by 10%. It also heals you when you deal holy damage, but this isn't a holy build. If you want to be more defensive, you can instead go with Indestructible, which gives you a second get out of jail free card. Onto gear. Now remember, we said cooldown reduction is very important to this build. Check out this video here to see how cooldown reduction stacks. It's not a simple matter of 8 on your shoulders and 5 in your ring adds up to 18. It doesn't stack that way. For your shoulders, you'll want Pauldrons of Akan, ideal stats Strength, Vitality, All Resistance, and cooldown reduction. Ideal helm is the Helm of Akan, with Strength, critical hit chance, a socket, and phalanx damage. In our helm, we want a diamond, of course. Ideal chest is the Breastplate of Akan. As you can see, I don't have that, but the stats that you want are Strength, Vitality, All Resist, and 3 sockets. Ideal gloves are the Gauntlets of Akan, with Strength, cooldown reduction, critical hit chance, and critical hit damage. I unfortunately have attack speed. That's not helping me. Ideal bracers are the Strong Arm bracers, and this is because our ponies are dealing knockback effects, and enemies hit by knockback effects with the Strong Arm bracers suffer significantly more damage for 5 seconds when they land. Ideal stats are Strength, Vitality, critical hit chance, and physical damage. For our belt, it was really difficult for me to let go of my Witching Hour. Look at that, I could be dealing 14% more damage with my Witching Hour, But no, you need the Vigilante belt because of that 8% cooldown reduction that you can get. Again, we're aiming to keep up Akarat's champion 100% of the time. Ideal Vigilante stats are Strength, Vitality, All Resist, and cooldown reduction. For your pants, you want the Crease of Akan, Strength, Vitality, All Resist, 2 sockets. For your boots, the Sabaton of Akan, Strength, Vitality, All Resist, and Phalanx damage. For the shield, you'd really need the Unrelenting Phalanx to maximize this build's potential. With this shield, anytime you cast Phalanx, it's cast twice at the same time for the cost of 1. This basically doubles your damage output right there. Ideal stats, Strength, cooldown reduction, critical hit chance, and Phalanx damage. Your ideal weapon will be a Furnace. No surprise, Furnace is basically the best weapon in the game, and is almost mandatory if you want to get anywhere into the higher greater rifts. And the ideal stats on your Furnace will be Strength, percent damage, cooldown reduction, a socket with an emerald, and elite damage. I don't have a Furnace yet, so in the meantime I'm using Heart Slaughter, which isn't a bad second choice, thanks to that physical damage bonus. It's not quite 50% extra damage to elites, but it's basically 30% damage to everyone all the time. For your necklace, this is a little negotiable. You'll ideally want one of the elemental resistance amulets, but it could be difficult to find ideal stats on those, and it might be just easier to craft yourself a Hellfire. But what's important are the stats that you'll want on it, and those are critical hit chance, critical hit damage, physical damage, and a socket. Strength is less important than these other stats, and as a bonus, you can then use that amulet on different characters. For your ring, again, anytime you're playing solo and you want to push those higher greater rifts, a unity is necessary. One for yourself, one for your companion, and you need to have on your companion that token that makes them invulnerable. Ideal unity stats are cooldown reduction, critical hit chance, socket, and elite damage. Now ideally you want your other ring to be a Stone of Jordan. I'm using a Ring of Royal Grandeur instead because I only have 5 pieces of Akan, but the ideal stats that you'll want on your Stone of Jordan are cooldown reduction, physical damage, elite damage, and a socket. If you have 6 pieces of Akan, and you don't have a Stone of Jordan, and you're looking for other substitutions that you can make with the Ring of Royal Grandeur, you could sub out the Helm of Akan for Leoric's Crown. You want the same stats, and you're going to still put a diamond, but now the diamond will be twice as effective, which is going to help that much more with the cooldown reduction. For your Paragon points, you want to bring your movement speed up to a total of 25%, then dump everything into strength. For offense, max out cooldown reduction, then critical hit chance and critical hit damage. This will always vary from case to case, but the rule of thumb is try to maintain a ratio of 10 to 1. In other words, if your crit chance is 40%, then your crit damage should be about 400%. For defense, max out all resist, then armor. And this is especially true if we're taking profit, which gives us 150% additional armor, so boosting our armor rather than our life is more beneficial to us. Then for utility, a little bit of resource cost reduction doesn't hurt, so max that out first, and then basically do what you want. Area damage, of course, will contribute to some degree, and life on hit's probably useless, and you probably don't need gold either. Onto legendary gems. Bane of the Trapped increases damage against control-impaired enemies, and the level 25 unlock gives you an aura that applies a control-impair effect to enemies nearby. Then if you're running T6 rifts, Bane of the Powerful's buff can be kept up almost 100% of the time, which is a tremendous damage boon. If instead you're going after the higher greater rifts, you might want to instead use Pain Enhancer, which applies damage over time effects. Then if you find yourself having cooldown issues, if you don't have 100% uptime on Akarat's champion, or if you'd even like to improve the cooldown on some of your other skills for whatever reason, then you can go with the Gogok of Swiftness. But again, only if you have the level 25 unlock. The Gogok of Swiftness increases your attack speed, which is useless to us, but at level 25 it also starts to apply additional cooldown reduction. Other good gem choices that'll boost your damage include the Gem of Efficacious Toxin, as well as Mirene Teardrop of the Starweaver. Now, one last note about this build before I sign off. Positioning is very important. You want to be positioning yourself and aiming your shots in order to get the most out of every single cast of Phalanx. This will become an acquired skill, and with practice, you'll start to figure out what works best with you. But if there's one piece of advice I can give, it's use your Steed Charge to position yourself optimally. Oftentimes what I'll do with Steed Charge is, rather than just stop and start attacking if I see enemies, I'll charge all the way through, which will aggro the enemies, get their attention, start to bring them towards me. I get ahead of them, and then when Steed Charge ends, I send the Stampede back the way I came, at the herd of enemies that have now started following me. But to see a real master of this build in action, check out Al-Kaiser. That wraps up this guide. Thanks for watching. Check out these other videos. And if you enjoyed this video, share it with friends, leave a comment, hit like, and subscribe to join Riker's Raiders.